A young woman, Rachel Carter, stood inside the bright bank lobby, her hands shaking as she clutched her worn-out wallet. At 22, Rachel had always been careful with money. She worked part-time while studying, never spent more than she had, and saved every spare dollar. But now, as she spoke to the banker behind the desk, her voice cracked with confusion. "Why does my card keep declining?" she asked, her throat dry. "I have money in my account. I checked this morning." The banker, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, typed something into his computer. His calm face slowly changed into something more serious. He looked at Rachel, then back at the screen. "Miss Carter," he said gently, "your card isn't being declined because of your account balance. It's because your credit score has dropped very low." Rachel blinked, her heart pounding harder. "My credit score? That doesn't make sense. I've never missed a payment. I don't even have any big debts." The banker hesitated, then turned the screen slightly toward her. "There's a large loan under your name. It hasn't been paid back. That's what ruined your score." Rachel's stomach twisted. She felt her knees weaken. "A loan?" she whispered. "No. There must be a mistake. I never took a loan. I couldn't have." The banker lowered his voice, as if trying to soften a blow. "The documents are clear. The loan is in your name. And," he paused, then added carefully, "your parents are listed as guarantors." Rachel froze. The word parents rang in her ears, her mother and father's names tied to something she knew nothing about. She shook her head quickly, almost like a child refusing to hear bad news. No, that's not possible. My parents wouldn't do that. They wouldn't put something like this on me." But deep down, in the pit of her stomach, Rachel felt a flicker of fear. Her parents, Linda and Mark, had always struggled with money. There had been so many arguments over bills, so many nights when she quietly gave up her own savings to help them out. She remembered her father's words. "Family comes first, Rachel. We sacrifice for each other." At the time, she believed him. But now, standing here, she wondered, had he meant that she was the one who would keep sacrificing? Her hands trembled as she picked up her bag and thanked the banker with a weak voice. She walked out of the bank, the cool air hitting her face like ice. Her heart was beating so fast it hurt. On the busy street, people brushed past her, laughing, talking, living their lives. Rachel barely noticed them. Her mind replayed every memory of her childhood. Her mother smiling at her graduation. Her father patting her on the shoulder after she got her first job. Her younger brother Ethan always being spoiled while she worked hard to keep the family afloat. And now this. A loan she never took. Debt crushing her future. And her parents' names written on the papers that tied it all to her. She stopped walking, tears stinging her eyes. A single question burned in her heart, heavier than anything she had ever felt before. What kind of parents betray their own child like this? Smart, hardworking, first in her family to attend college, Rachel Carter carried these titles with pride. From the time she was young, she understood the value of effort. While her classmates spent weekends going out, Rachel worked shifts at a small cafe, saving every dollar she could. She studied finance at college, not because it was easy, but because she dreamed of building a future free from the struggles her family had always faced. Numbers made sense to her. Money could be managed, and she promised herself she would never live trapped in debt the way her parents did. Her parents, Linda and Mark Carter, were not bad people in her eyes, at least not when she was growing up, but they were careless. Money slipped through their fingers like water. One month it was a car loan they couldn't pay. Another month it was bills piling high on the kitchen counter. Arguments about money were common in their home, and Rachel often sat in her room, listening to her parents' voices rise and fall through the walls. Her younger brother, Ethan, was a different story. At 18, he was treated like the baby of the family. He always had what he wanted, even when the family couldn't afford it. New sneakers, a new phone, money for parties. Somehow, her parents found a way to give it to him. And when Ethan got into trouble, it was Rachel who paid the price. She was the one who covered his late school fees, the one who gave up her own needs so Ethan wouldn't feel the weight of responsibility. Rachel became the quiet backbone of her family. She paid bills when her parents couldn't. She cooked meals, helped Ethan with his homework, and sometimes even used her savings to keep the electricity on. Her friends called her dependable, but inside, she sometimes felt trapped. She wasn't living just for herself. She was carrying everyone. She could still remember one night when she was about 14. The lights had been cut off again because of unpaid bills. Sitting in the dark, her father had placed a hand on her shoulder and said in a firm voice, "Family comes first, Rachel. We sacrifice for each other." At the time, she took those words to heart. She thought they meant unity, love, and trust. But years later, those same words echoed back in her mind like a cruel reminder of how much she had given, and how much her parents had taken. Now, standing on the edge of adulthood, Rachel began to see things more clearly. She was the responsible one, the safety net her parents relied on. Every time they made a poor choice, they turned to her, knowing she would step in. And every time Ethan stumbled, she was expected to pick him up. It was as if her future didn't belong to her, but to them. But Rachel wanted more. She dreamed of finishing school, landing a good job, and building a stable life where she didn't have to worry about money every single day. She wanted an apartment of her own, a savings account she didn't have to drain for others, and the freedom to choose her own path. That's why the news at the bank hit her so hard. All her sacrifices, all her careful planning, all the years of saying no to herself so she could say yes to her family, it now felt like it was for nothing. Her credit was destroyed by a loan she never even knew existed. The foundation of the future she had worked so hard to build was already crumbling before it could begin. Her job applications would be affected. Her dreams of renting a place of her own would be delayed. Even simple things like getting approved for a phone plan or a car suddenly seemed impossible. For the first time in her life, Rachel felt the weight of betrayal. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust. She had given everything for her family, but now she wondered if they had ever truly cared about what she wanted. And the scariest thought of all lingered in her mind. Maybe she had been nothing more than a tool, the responsible one, her parents could use whenever they needed saving. Rachel confronts her parents about the loan the same evening she learns the truth. She sits in the living room, her bag still by her side, her face pale from shock. Linda and Mark are on the couch, watching television, as if nothing is wrong. Rachel's voice trembles at first, but anger pushes the words out. "Why is there a loan under my name?" she demands. "The bank told me everything. They said you both signed as guarantors. Is it true?" Her mother, Linda, avoids her eyes, fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve. "Rachel, calm down. It's not as bad as it sounds." "Not as bad as it sounds," Rachel repeats, her voice rising. "My credit is destroyed. I can't even use my card. How could you do this without asking me?" Her father, Mark, leans forward, his tone firm but defensive. "It was for the family's survival. We didn't have a choice. The bills kept piling up. Ethan needed help with school. We thought you, out of everyone, would understand." Rachel feels her chest tighten. "Understand? You used my name. You ruined my future. And you didn't even tell me." Mark shakes his head, waving a hand like he's brushing away her words. "One day, when you're older, you'll see why we did this. Family sticks together. You should be grateful we trusted you enough to put the loan in your name." "Grateful?" Rachel's voice cracks, her eyes filling with tears. "You didn't trust me, you trapped me. You signed documents with my name on them without my consent. Do you realize what you've done?" Linda finally looks at her, her eyes watering. "Sweetheart, please don't make this harder than it already is. We thought it was the only way. We're your parents. We love you. This was for all of us, for the family." Rachel stares at them, unable to believe what she's hearing. The people who were supposed to protect her had betrayed her in the worst way. She feels her trust shatter like glass. Every memory of sacrifice, every late night she worked to keep the family afloat, suddenly twists into something ugly. In that moment, she doesn't see protectors or loving parents. She sees people who used her, who saw her responsibility and kindness as something to take advantage of. Her voice turns cold. "You didn't do this for the family. You did this because it was easy. Because you knew I wouldn't fight back. You used me." Mark slams his hand against the armrest. "Watch your tone. Without us, you wouldn't be where you are today. Don't forget who raised you." Rachel flinches at his words but doesn't back down. Something inside her hardens. For the first time, she looks at her parents not with love, but with anger and disappointment. Her heart is broken, but her mind is clear. She can't let this destroy her. She can't sit by and allow their choices to define her life. She wipes her tears quickly and stands, her voice steady now. I'm not going to let this ruin me, she says firmly. If you won't fix it, I will. Her parents stare at her in silence, shocked by the sudden strength in her tone. Without another word, Rachel grabs her bag and walks out of the room. Her hands are still shaking, her stomach in knots, but inside her something has shifted. That night, sitting on her small bed, she opens her laptop and begins searching. She looks up information about fraud, about loans taken without consent, about how to separate her finances from her parents' mistakes. Every word she reads feels like a lifeline pulling her out of the darkness. The betrayal hurts deeply, but Rachel makes a quiet promise to herself. She will not collapse under the weight of what her parents did. She will fight back, and for the first time in her life, she will fight for herself. Rachel confides in her best friend, Maya, the day after the terrible fight with her parents. They sit together in a small cafe near campus, Rachel staring down at her untouched coffee while Maya leans forward, her face full of shock and anger. They did what? Maya almost shouts. They put a loan in your name? Without telling you. Rachel nods, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. The banker showed me everything. Their signatures were there. And when I confronted them, they didn't even deny it. They said it was for the family. Maya shakes her head, disbelief written all over her face. That's not love, Rachel. That's exploitation. You have to cut ties before they drag you down further. Rachel looks up at her friend, her voice soft and broken. But they're my parents. I've spent my whole life helping them. If I turn my back now, what kind of daughter does that make me? It makes you a smart daughter, Maya says firmly. It makes you someone who wants to live her own life. They've taken advantage of you long enough. Rachel wants to believe Maya, but her heart aches. She feels torn in two, one part furious and ready to break free, the other part chained by love and loyalty to the people who raised her. Days pass, and the situation only gets worse. Rachel goes to check her credit report online, hoping maybe the loan was the only problem. But her stomach drops when she sees more. Her parents had also used her name for unpaid utility bills, electricity, water, even internet accounts. Her name is stained everywhere. Her phone buzzes with emails from job applications. Each one has the same message. We regret to inform you. After running a credit check, we cannot continue with your application. Rachel feels like the walls are closing in. She worked so hard for her degree, built her resume, interviewed with confidence. And now, everything is falling apart because of decisions she never made. One evening, as she sits at the kitchen table with papers scattered in front of her, Ethan strolls in with a smirk. He picks up one of the notices and laughs. You're still upset about this? You're overreacting, Rachel. It's just money. Mom and Dad did what they had to do. Rachel looks up at him in disbelief. Overreacting? My future is ruined because of them. Because of all of you. Do you even care? Ethan shrugs, leaning against the counter. You'll figure it out. You always do. That's your job in this family. His words cut deeper than a knife. Rachel realizes he truly believes it, that she exists only to carry their mistakes. She feels her anger boiling, rising higher than ever before. That night, she returns to her parents' house, her hands shaking but her voice steady. She faces them in the living room, her heart pounding with fury. I know about the utility bills, she says firmly. I know everything you've done in my name. You've ruined my chances at jobs, at independence, at a future. How could you keep doing this to me? Linda tries to soothe her with soft words, but Rachel cuts her off. No. Don't tell me it was for the family. You've been using me. And I'm done letting you. Mark's face turns red, his voice sharp and loud. Watch yourself, Rachel. Don't forget who put food in your mouth and a roof over your head. We made you. Without us, you'd be nothing. Rachel's breath catches. The words sting, but they also clear something inside her. For years, she believed she owed them everything. But now she sees the truth. They believe she belongs to them, that her future is theirs to control. Her emotions crash together like waves. Guilt for standing against her family, sorrow for the love she feels slipping away, and fury at how much they've taken from her. She feels like a rope pulled at both ends, close to snapping. Tears stream down her face as she whispers, You didn't make me. I made myself, and you've been tearing me down every step of the way. For the first time, Rachel feels truly alone. Her parents don't see her as a daughter to protect, but as a resource to use. Her brother mocks her pain. The people she thought would always be her safety net are the ones cutting the strings. But through the heartbreak, a realization begins to grow. If she doesn't fight back now, if she doesn't protect herself, she will lose everything she has worked for. She will lose herself. Rachel wipes her tears and straightens her shoulders. The fear and sadness are still there, but something stronger burns beneath them. She will not let this be the end of her story. She will fight for her freedom, for her future, for her own life. Rachel hires a lawyer and begins proceedings to separate her finances legally. Sitting in the small office, she feels nervous but determined as the lawyer explains each step. It won't be easy, but there are ways to protect herself. He assures her that since her name was misused, she has the right to challenge the loan and remove herself from her parents' debts. For the first time in weeks, Rachel feels a spark of hope. When her parents find out, their reaction is explosive. Her mother calls her late one night, her voice broken with sobs. "Rachel, how could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you? You're ungrateful. We're your parents. You can't just betray us like this." Rachel listens in silence, her heart heavy, but she doesn't back down. "I didn't betray you," she says softly. "You betrayed me when you signed my name without asking." Her father's response is harsher. He storms into the conversation, his voice full of anger. "If you go through with this, you're no daughter of mine. We'll cut you off. Don't come back when you realize how much you owe us." Rachel hangs up, shaking. She cries for hours, grieving the parents she thought she had. But deep inside she knows there's no turning back. The twist comes days later when her lawyer informs her of a legal option. Because the loan and some of the bank accounts are tied to her name, she has the right to freeze them until the court decides. It's the only way to protect herself from more damage. With trembling hands, Rachel signs the papers. For the first time, her parents' access to money is blocked, and it's because of her. The news reaches them quickly. That evening, a furious knock rattles her apartment door. When she opens it, her parents storm inside, their faces full of rage. "How dare you?" Mark shouts, his voice echoing through the small space. "You froze our accounts. Do you know what you've done to us?" Linda's eyes are red from crying. "Rachel, please, you've gone too far. We're your family. You can't treat us like enemies." Rachel stands in the center of the room, her knees shaking, her palms sweaty. But her voice, though shaky, is firm. "You used me. You took my future without asking. But you will never control me again." Her father steps closer, his face twisted with anger. "We raised you. We gave you everything we could. And this is how you repay us? By destroying us." Rachel's chest burns with years of pain. And suddenly it all comes pouring out. Her voice breaks, but she doesn't stop. "Everything you could? You gave Ethan everything. You spoiled him while I worked myself to the bone. I paid bills, I covered debts, I gave up my own dreams for you. And every single time, you just took more. You never even asked what I wanted." Tears run down her face as she continues. "Do you remember telling me family comes first? Do you remember how many times I stayed awake, crying, wondering how I would pay for things you promised to handle? Do you remember how I gave up trips, clothes, even meals so you could feel comfortable? And after all of that, you didn't even respect me enough to ask before destroying my name." Linda starts to sob louder, covering her face. Mark glares at Rachel, but has no words to fight back. For the first time, her voice is stronger than his. "You always told me I owed you," Rachel says, her chest heaving. "But I don't owe you my life. I don't owe you my freedom. I am not your provider anymore. I am not your safety net. I am your daughter, and you should have protected me. But you didn't." The room falls silent. Her parents stare at her, realizing perhaps for the first time that Rachel is no longer the quiet, obedient daughter they could control. She is standing on her own, even if it means standing against them. Mark mutters something under his breath and storms toward the door. Linda follows, crying, calling Rachel heartless and ungrateful. But Rachel doesn't chase after them. She stands firm, watching them leave. Her body is trembling, her face wet with tears, but her spirit feels lighter than it has in years. For the first time, the power has shifted. The chains of guilt and duty that held her down are broken. Her parents may hate her now, but Rachel knows she has taken back her life. Parents cut her off emotionally, siding with Ethan. After the confrontation, Rachel receives no calls, no visits, no messages from them. It is as if she no longer exists in their family. When she hears from a neighbor that her parents talk proudly about Ethan, calling him their only loyal child, her heart aches. She feels abandoned, replaced, and unwanted. At first, the silence is unbearable. Rachel cries at night, hugging her pillow, remembering birthdays, family dinners, and the times she believed her parents loved her unconditionally. The grief is heavy, but under it all, there is something else: relief. Without their constant demands and manipulations, Rachel finally feels a little lighter. Slowly, she begins to rebuild. She works extra hours at her part-time job, saving every bit she can. Her lawyer helps her untangle the worst of the financial mess, though fixing her credit takes time. Rachel keeps going, one step at a time. Maya never leaves her side. She listens when Rachel breaks down, encourages her when the weight feels too much, and celebrates every small victory. "You're stronger than you think," Maya tells her one evening over tea. "You don't need them to define you anymore." Rachel also finds unexpected support from her professors and mentors at college. When they learn about her situation, some help her find scholarships, others recommend her for internships. Slowly, Rachel begins to see that not all adults take advantage of her. Some truly want her to succeed. Months pass, and Rachel's hard work begins to pay off. She secures her first stable job at a finance firm. It isn't glamorous, but it's honest work, and it gives her enough to live on her own without fear. The day she signs her employment contract, her hands tremble, but this time from joy, not fear. She moves into a small but cozy apartment. It is quiet, peaceful, and most importantly hers. For the first time in her life, Rachel feels like she is standing on her own 2 feet, free from the weight of her family's mistakes. Even though the scars remain, the ruined credit history, the painful memories, the betrayal, Rachel discovers something powerful inside herself. She learns she can create a life without being chained to the toxicity she once accepted as normal. She still thinks of her parents sometimes, especially her mother's soft voice and her father's proud smile from long ago. Those memories hurt, but they no longer control her. Rachel now understands that love doesn't mean blind sacrifice, and family doesn't mean giving up her future. Standing by the window of her apartment one evening, watching the city lights glow, Rachel whispers to herself, "I made it through." And deep inside she knows the truth. She is free. Rachel, now alone in her new apartment, sits at the small wooden table by the window. The envelope in her hands feels heavier than it should. With trembling fingers, she opens it and pulls out her very first official paycheck. For a moment, she just stares at it, hardly believing it's real. Then the tears come. Not from pain, not from sadness, but from pure relief. This piece of paper is more than money. It is proof. Proof that she survived. Proof that she can stand on her own. Proof that her parents' betrayal did not destroy her. She wipes her tears, a shaky smile spreading across her face. Carefully, she slides the check into a folder she bought just for this moment. On the cover, written in neat black letters, are the words, "My future." It feels like drawing a line between her past and what lies ahead. She walks to the window, the city stretching before her in glowing lights. Cars move like tiny stars on the streets below, and tall buildings shine against the night sky. For the first time, instead of feeling small, Rachel feels strong. She presses her hand against the glass, her reflection staring back at her. Tired, scarred, but unbroken. A whisper leaves her lips, soft but steady. "I survived. And I'm free." The words echo in her heart like a promise. She doesn't know what tomorrow will bring. She doesn't know if her family will ever change, or if they will always see her as the one who walked away. But she does know one thing. Her life belongs to her now. Rachel turns away from the window, ready to begin again. The story of her betrayal has ended, but the story of her freedom has just begun. Hey friends, thanks so much for sticking around till the end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.